We're going to go from Florida to the great state of Maryland. I got a home there, and there's a rhino governor named Larry Hogan, but he's on the way out. And there's a man with a plan. His name is Dan Cox. Hogan was trying to run him down, but another man named Donald Trump gave him a big endorsement. And our buddy Chris Carter, our correspondent, is on the ground in Rockville, Maryland, with the candidate right now. Good morning, gentlemen.
Hey, thanks so much for having us on. I really appreciate it. Right here, this is Dan Cox, the Trump-endorsed candidate from the blue state of Maryland. Right here, we're at Richard Montgomery High School, where tomorrow President Biden will be having his big coming out party for the midterm elections and try to explain to everybody why they should reelect these Democrats and keep spending all this money. But this is Dan Cox. Now, this is a person who has now put himself on the national stage to try to fix Maryland's problems. Mr. Cox, how are you doing this today?
I'm excellent, Chris. Thank you very much for the opportunity. You know, here we are in Montgomery County, Maryland, ground zero for the sanctuary state that we're experiencing. Maryland is now a border state. And I'm running against this because Westmore is more Biden control, more disastrous policies. We see behind us that there are temporary student structures just to accommodate the overflow of the sanctuary state policies that are happening. And what is the result? What is the offer that Biden is bringing us and that Westmore is standing with Biden to do? It's more taxation for businesses. So these students, not only do they not have SROs, which, by the way, they just pulled out of the schools, but instead of having an opportunity after high school to go and get a good job, to have an opportunity to build a business, they're now looking at, people might as well cut a $10,000 check to the government right now because they're sending IRS agents right here to Montgomery County. They're going to go after the small businesses, which is 50% of our lifeblood of income here in Maryland. And these students are not going to have the job opportunities and the wealth and income opportunities that we need to make sure they have to uplift them all. So when you hear Westmore talking about, platitudes of uplifting Maryland, he's standing with President Biden to tear us down financially, tear us down as a sanctuary city state, and also, unfortunately, just down the street, to have a transgender indoctrination program in the elementary schools, which is atrocious. And I'm standing against
And that's in Frederick, Maryland. We'll get to that in just a minute where you're from. But I want to show our viewers a little bit more, something a little bit more serious than what's happening in the schools. Some of these young men, if we can just put up that press release, they don't realize that in Montgomery County, Maryland, the murder rate has doubled within 1 year. This is an affluent suburb outside of Washington, D.C. Here we have two suspects that have allegedly murdered another individual. When I called the police to inquire about information, they said that they could not even discuss with me whether they were even in the country illegally or not. They can't even ask them. They're not even allowed. So when we're looking at things back here like school, satellite classrooms, that's kind of a mild symptom to what we see going on in all these communities nationally, especially in places like New York. Here we've gotten thousands of people now. In a place like Frederick, Maryland, what do you see happening in your community?
Well, I'm a state delegate as well, and I'm the Republican nominee for governor, and we have had the sad state of affairs of MS-13 killing young people. We had in my district someone dumped from Montgomery County after being killed, dumped in the woods, horrifically murdered. And we see right here in Montgomery County, after they removed the SROs from the schools, which are there by state law to protect the children. We know how to protect our banks and our gems and all that, but our children are gems. And so we have a state law that says they have to have police protection in schools. But what did the Westmore Biden approach under this current Montgomery County administration under Elric do? They removed the SROs, endangering students. Now there's an increase in rapes, increase in murders. We don't have police coverage for the students. That's going to end on my watch. We're going to make sure that we enforce state law and protect our children.
And if you want to come out and support Dan Cox tomorrow, the Trump-endorsed candidate for governor in Maryland, you can attend a counter rally to Joe Biden speaking here at Richard Montgomery High School in Rockville, Maryland. It's called the Rally for Freedom right here, the Freedom Rally. All the information is right there. You can see that it's going to be at the exact time that Joe Biden is speaking. Come out here and support your conservatives in the blue state of Maryland and support a gentleman like Dan Cox, who frankly, he's got the cojones to step up and really address what Marylanders need. And that is real leadership, conservative values. And let's face it, we live in a very high tax state. What are you going to do about taxes in this state?
Immediately move to the constant dollar approach for the property tax assessment. I mean, we have a 34% inflationary property tax going on right now, which is driving out our people from Maryland. They have to move to other states. We need to also make sure that the corporate rate is lowered because we can't compete with Delaware and Florida and many of our surrounding states. That's the approach that I'm going to take, is putting money back in your pockets. Right now, the Trump tax cut, God bless him, he gave the nation an amazing tax cut. $2.5 billion sits in the Maryland Treasury. They're not returning it to the people. I'm going to send that back to the people, make sure our businesses have that capital that they need.
That's Dan Cox, the gubernatorial candidate, going against a heavy hitter here in Maryland, in the blue state of Maryland. But I can tell you what, our viewers love to hear from people like you. And thank you for being so much with us here today. And thank you so much, and good luck.
Thank you, CoxForFreedom.com. Thank you so much.